What we're going to do in this video is work on mixture word problems. When we're talking about mixture word problems, those are problems where you're mixing two different things. Sometimes you're mixing two tickets that are worth different amounts. In this question, we're mixing nickels and quarters. So let's read this. Michaela has $1.90 in nickels and quarters in her change purse. She has 8 more nickels and quarters. How many coins of each type does she have? Now, the way I like to visualize these problems is to draw two different sort of cups of things that are combined together. Okay, so on a basic level, we know that we're combining nickels and we're combining quarters. And when I combine my nickels and quarters, I should get a total of $1.90. Now, the way you want to think about it is you want to estimate, right? If I gave you a cup of nickels and a cup of quarters and I asked you how much money is there, what you would do is you'd count the number of nickels, multiply it by 5 cents, and then count the number of quarters, multiply it by 25, and then you'd add those two numbers up, and what would happen is we would get $1.90. So we want to do that mathematically. So the key question is, how many nickels are there and how many quarters? Now, when we go to this line, she has 8 more nickels and quarters. Let's just use intuition, right? If I have quarters and nickels here, if I have 1 quarter and she has 8 more of these, she should have 1 plus 8 nickels. If I have 2 quarters, she should have 2 plus 8, which is 10. So we could see a pattern developing here, right? I don't know how many quarters there are, but I do know that once I know how many quarters there are, you're going to add 8 to it. Okay? So if X is the number of quarters you have, then X plus 8 is the number of nickels that you have. There are 8 more of these than these. Now, to find the dollar amount of the nickels, you simply multiply 0.5 times X plus 8, right? 5 cents times how many are there. To find the dollar amount of the quarters, you multiply how many quarters are there times 25 cents. So all of these problems have this general form where you have this times this plus this times this is equal to the total amount. So let's write that down, right? The dollar amount in nickels plus the dollar amount in quarters is equal to the total dollar amount. So the total dollar amount is $1.90. The dollar amount of nickels is 5 cents times how many nickels plus 25 cents times how many quarters there are, right? And that'll be equal. So now we have our basic equation that we have to solve. The first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the decimals. And the way you do that is you multiply each term by 100. A term is separated by a plus or minus. So this is a term, this is a term, this is a term. So we should get 100 times 100 times 100. And we end up with 5x plus 8 plus 25x is equal to 190. Now, let's distribute. So I get 5x plus 40 is plus 25x is equal to 190. And then when I combine like terms, I'll get 30x plus 40 is equal to 190. And then what we want to do is we want to subtract 40 from both sides. I get 30x is equal to 150. And then when we divide both sides by 30, we should get x is equal to 5. X is equal to 5, and this is the number of quarters. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to figure out how many nickels there are. So we know that there are x quarters and there are 8 more nickels. So in order to find number of nickels, you have x plus 8, that's the number of nickels, and we know that x is equal to 5. So when we put these together, we get 5 plus 8 is equal to 13, which is the number of nickels. Okay, and then we can circle that. Okay, so that's how many quarters, that's how many nickels I have. And if we wanted to test it out, we could just, use common sense. We would say if I have 5 nickels and I have, if I have 5 quarters and I have 13 nickels, do I get $1.90? I don't know, let's see. I get $1.25 here plus right there, that is 65 cents. If I add them together, I get $1.90. Looks like it works. Now, this one has a slight variation. Mukul has 230 in nickels, dimes, and quarters. He has 7 more dimes and quarters and 8 more nickels and quarters. How many coins are in his pocket? So the first thing we have to recognize is that he's mixing 3 things together, nickels, dimes, and quarters, and he's getting $2.30. Okay, so our picture is going to change just slightly, where we have 3 cups of coins now. And then when we put the 3 cups of coins in here, we know we get $2.30. And we know that one of these is a nickel, one of these is a dime, and one of these is a quarter. So what we need to figure out is how much money is here, how much money is here, how much money is here. The way we figure out is we figure out how many nickels there are and we multiply it by 5 cents. How many dimes there are and multiply it by 10. And we do the same thing for quarters. So let's look at the next part. He has 7 more dimes and quarters. So if X is how many quarters he has 7 more dimes. Okay, so he has more dimes than quarters. And 8 more nickels and quarters. So he has more nickels and quarters also. In fact, he has 8 more. And again, we use the same sort of pattern where we go a nickel times how many plus 10 cents times how many plus a quarter times how many is equal to $2.30. Okay, so we'll get 0.05, and I'm going to flip that. I'm going to make it x plus 8 plus 10 cents. I'm going to make that x plus 7. I'm just flipping these two around just so it looks more like our old algebra problems that we've done before. And then over here, we have plus 0.25x is equal to 230. So a nickel times how many plus a dime times how many plus a quarter times how many tells us that we should total $2.30. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Let's get rid of the decimals by multiplying each term by 100. So this gets multiplied by 100, this gets multiplied by 100, this gets multiplied by 100. Now the reason why we're multiplying by 100 is that we want to move each one of these decimals 2 places. Okay, so the number of places you want to move should refer to how many zeros there are in what you're multiplying each term by. Okay, so over here we have 2 decimal places, 2 zeros. So this should turn into 5x plus 8 plus 10x plus 7 plus 25x is equal to, oh, we're multiplying this also, $230. Okay, now let's distribute each one of these, and we should get 5x plus 40 plus 10x plus 70 plus 25x is equal to 230. And then let's combine like terms. We should get 5 plus 10 is 15, plus 25 is 40x, plus 110, right? If I add the 40 and the 70, is equal to 230. Now let's isolate. And we end up with 120. And if we divide both of these by 40, we should get x is equal to 3. Okay, now, so when we look at this, we see that the number of quarters is 3. Okay, so let's figure out the number of dimes. The number of dimes is x plus 7, where x is equal to 3. So I should get 3 plus 10 is equal, 3 plus 7 is equal to 10. And this is the number of dimes. And then we should go to this one over here, where we say the number of nickels I have is x plus 8, and x is equal to 3. 3 plus 8 is equal to 11. And then this is the number of nickels. Okay, now let's take a look at this one. Now this one is a little different because we're not talking about coins, we're talking about stocks. Hilda has $49 worth of stocks, of $3 and $5 stock shares. So it's basically the same problem. The only difference is that instead of saying nickels and dimes, they're just telling us how much the stocks cost. If they had done the same thing where Hilda has $3 tickets and $5 tickets, the total amount of the tickets are $49, it would be the same thing. Whenever we're combining 2 different things, we're going to use this format. So let's relook at this again. Hilda has $49 worth of $3 and $5 stock shares. So we know already that we're mixing something that costs $3 and something that costs $5. And what she's going to get when she mixes them together is $49. So the only question we have is how many of these are there and how many of these are there. So the number of $3 shares is 9 more than twice the number of $5 shares. Okay, so the only difference between this and the previous problems is that the relationship between $3 and $5 shares is a little more complex. So let's sort of translate this. The number of $3 shares is, okay, so this is a equal, right? So the number of $3 shares is equal to 9 more than twice the number. So we have 9 more is plus, twice the number is 2x. Okay, So we have x of these and 2x plus 9 of these, right? We're saying the number of $3 shares is, this is what's equal to 9 plus 2x. How many types of each share does he have? Well, let's do the same thing we do. This times this times this is equal to 49. Now, after this problem, we have a few more problems that change different components of the mixture problem. Okay, so they'll be slightly different than what we've been doing. But let's finish this one up, and we have 3 times 2x plus 9 plus 5x is equal to 49. We get 6x plus 27 plus 5x is equal to 49. That's 11x plus 27 is equal to 49. And then if we subtract 27 from both sides, we get 11x is equal to 22, so x is equal to 2. So this is the number of $5 stock shares she has. Okay, so this is part of the correct answer. The next thing we need to do is figure out how many $3 shares she has. So this is how many $3 shares she has, and it's 2x plus 9, where x is equal to 2. So we get 2x plus 9. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's plug in the 2. 2 times 2 plus 9 is equal to 4 plus 9 is equal to 13. And that right there is the number of $3 shares. And then if you double check it, right, you can say 2 times 5 plus 13 times 3 should give us 49. And it does. 10 plus 39 is 49, and that checks out. That's a correct answer. So let's look at this next problem. The ice rink sold 109 tickets for the afternoon session for a total of $1,187. General admission tickets cost $15 and youth tickets cost $7 each. How many of each kind of tickets were sold? So when we look at sort of the general setup, most of this looks like the prior problems. We have 2 types of tickets that are worth different amounts of money. One is $7, one is $15, and when we add the total, we get $1,187. So what we need to know is how many $7 tickets there were and how many $15 tickets. So the setup is very similar. The only part that's different is this part right here. What they tell you is the total number of tickets sold. In the previous problems, they would say something like, there are 8 more nickels than quarters, and you would write something like x plus 8 and x over here in terms of the quantity. Now this is different because they're not saying that there's more of these or less of these. They're telling you when we add how many we sold here and how many sold here, we get 109. So let's think about it. Let's say we look at $15 tickets and $7 tickets. If I sold one $15 ticket, right, how many $7 tickets would I have to have sold? Basically 108. We got that by saying 109 minus 1. See, when we add these two numbers, we get 109. If I sold 2 $15 tickets, that would mean that I would have sold 107 $7 tickets, or 109 minus 2. So we can start to see a pattern that if I sold X tickets, then I would have to have sold 109 minus X tickets. So what we'll do is we'll put X here, and we'll put 109 minus X here, right? If I sold this many $15 tickets, I would have sold 109 minus X, $7 tickets. Now, usually at this point, someone asks me, how did I know that this was X and that wasn't X? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. You can make this X and then this 109 minus X, or you can make this X and this one 109 minus X. It doesn't matter. It works either way. What I usually try to do is figure out which multiplication I would rather do. I would rather multiply 7 times 109 than 115 times 109, which is why I put this setup. So anytime they tell you the total number of items, right? Total number of tickets, total number of coins, you'll play this game of total minus X and X. Okay, now let's solve this problem. We have 7 times this plus 15x is equal to 1,187. So let's write that down. We have 7 times 109 minus x plus 15x is equal to 1,187. Now, if we distribute, we get 763 minus 7x plus 15x is equal to 1,187. Now, let's combine like terms, and I will get 763 plus 8x is equal to 7. And then let's isolate the x. We'll subtract 763 from both sides. And 8x will be equal to 424. And when I divide both sides by 8, I should get 53. Okay, so this is the number of $15 tickets. The reason why I know this is the number of $15 tickets is we put the X with the 15. Now, in total, we have 109 tickets. So I can find how many $7 tickets there are by doing 109 minus 53. And that should be 56, which is the number of $7 tickets. Okay, now in this one, what we're doing is we have 2 different investments. One investment is at 8% and another investment is at 12%. So just understand that this is the very same problem that we did before. We're mixing 2 different interest from 2 different pots of money. And at the end, we earn 1,040 in interest. Okay, and we know that one of my accounts is making 12% interest. We're just going to write it like that. So we're going to convert the decimal into the percent into a decimal. And the way we do that is that we get rid of this by moving this 2 places, the decimal. Same thing over here. I have another investment at 8%. Now, to know how much money I made from my 12% investment, I have to multiply how much money did I invest times 0.12. To know how much I made from my 8% interest, I have to know how much money do I invest here, and then multiply it by 8%. Now, what they're doing is they're not telling us how much money we put here and how much money we put here. They're telling us in total, they invested $10,000. Meaning that if I look at the 12% and the 8%, if I invested $1 here, then I would have to invest 10,000 minus 1, $9,999 in this one. Because when I add the 2 pots of money, they should be the same. If I invested $2 here, then the amount of money I invested in the 8% is this much, right? So since I don't know how much I invested in the 12% investment, I do know that once I figure it out, if I subtract it from 10,000, that'll tell me how much I made in my 8% investment, okay? So if we do X here, and then we do 10,000 minus X over here, we can see that we have the exact same problem that we had before. This times this plus this times this is equal to this. And the reason why we're using this X, 10,000 minus X, is because they gave us the total amount that they invested. They didn't say that there's twice as much money in here than there. They just gave us the total amount. So we use the total amount trick that we did in the last question. Now, let's solve this. 2x plus 0.08, 10,000 minus x is equal to 1040. Okay. Now, what we want to do is get rid of the decimals. So we have to multiply every term by 100. Okay. And that even includes the total, which doesn't have a decimal. So now we have 12x plus 8 times 10,000 minus x is equal to $104,000. Okay, now let's distribute, and I should get 12x plus 80,000 minus 8x is equal to 104,000. Then we'll combine like terms. We'll get 4x plus 80,000 is equal to, right? And then we'll get 4x is equal to 24,000. And then we're going to divide both sides by 4. And then we go x is equal to $6,000. Okay, this is the interest earned at 12%. Interest invested at 12% interest. Okay, so if we spent 10,000 total, we can see that if I put 6,000 here, I should get 4,000 here, right? So let's figure out how much money we invested in the 8%. So we have 10,000 minus the x, where x is equal to 6,000. We'll plug that in. We'll get 10,000 minus 6,000 is equal to 4,000. And this is the interest invested at 8% interest. Okay, so the only difference between this problem and the previous problem is that we started bringing in interest, and you just change that into a decimal. So let's take a look at this problem. How many gallons of 30% alcohol solution and 45% alcohol solution must be mixed to get 9 gallons of 35% alcohol solution? So what we have here is we have two types of solutions with different sort of dilutions of alcohol. This one has 30% alcohol. This one is 45% alcohol. And this one is 35% alcohol. Now, it tells us that there is a total of 9 gallons of alcohol. So this is the 9 minus x and x situation, right? So if I have x amount here, then I should have 9 minus x here, right? This plus this will give me the 9 gallons. Now, the difference between this problem and prior problems is that in prior problems, like let's say this interest one, what they gave us at the end was the total amount of interest okay? So you had percent times money plus percent times money is equal to money. Now the problem over here is that we have percent times how much alcohol, percent times how much alcohol, and then we have percent here. But if they had given us that we had gotten 8 gallons of alcohol off of this, we wouldn't have to do what we're going to do next. What we have to do is we have to multiply 9 here. The reason why is that we're saying this percent times this amount plus this percent times this amount is equal to this percent times the total amount. Now, normally what they would have done in the previous problem is they would have given us this value already multiplied together. And in this case, they're not. So what we have to do is we have to have a quantity in this situation. So now let's solve this problem. So we have 0.30 times 9 minus x plus 0.45 times x is equal to 0.35 times 9. Let's multiply everything by 100. And we'll get 39 minus x plus 45x is equal to 35 times 9. When we distribute this, we'll get 270 minus 30x plus 45x is equal to, when we multiply these two, we should get 315. Now, let's combine like terms over here. So I should get 270 plus 15x is equal to 315. And then I'm going to subtract 270 from both sides. And we get 15x is equal to 45. X is equal to x is equal to 3. Okay. So we have this right here is the number of gallons. Okay, of 45% solution. Okay. To figure out how many gallons of 30% solution, we do 9 minus x, where x is equal to 3. So 9 minus 3 is equal to 6. So gallons of 30% solution. So let's look at this last problem. Dominic pays 60% interest on his $1,500 car loan and 12% interest on his $17,000 car loan. What average interest rate does he pay on his $32,000 that he owes? Okay. Now, let's sort of fill in the blanks of what information they give us. Okay. We have something that's at 6%, and it says that he spent $1,500 at 16%, and he spent $17,000 at 12%. And we want to know at what interest does he pay on his $32,000 that he owes. Okay, so do you see how this plus this equals to the total amount he owes? Okay, so we have a percent times how much he borrowed here plus the percent times how much he's borrowed here, and then what we're missing is the percent times how much he totally owes. This right here will be the average total interest. Okay. Now you can see that we had the same setup in the previous problem where we had percent times how much plus percent times how much is equal to percent times total how much was used, right? So we have the same setup. Percent times how much in here, percent times how much is in here is equal to percent times how much total was borrowed. So these last two questions have the similar setup. They just give you a different missing variable. Okay. Now, so let's solve this problem. We have 0.06 times 15,000 plus 12% at 17,000 is equal to X percent at 32,000. Now, let's multiply everything by 100. So now we have 6 times 15,000 plus 12 times 17,000 is equal to, let's see, 320000 X, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Now, what I can do is I can divide every term by 1,000. And that'll just make my bookkeeping easier. This 1,000 will knock out that. This 1,000 will knock out that. And this 1,000 will knock out that. So just like over here where we multiply 100 to get rid of the decimal, we can divide each term by the same number to get rid of confusing extra zeros. Now, what we should have, if we clean this up, is 6 times 15 plus 12 times 17 is equal to 3,200. Okay. So when I multiply these two, I should get 90. When I multiply these two, I should get 204 is equal to, oh, sorry, my X, 3,200 and X right there. So when we add these two, we get 294 is equal to 3200X. I can divide both of these. And I get X is equal to 0.091875. And this goes on for a while. But let's just simplify it. Let's just round it over here. And we'll get X is equal to 0.092. Now we got to convert this to interest. So we got to move the decimal 2 places. And now I get 9.2%. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe us so other people can find the videos. Thank you.